Pocahontas. That's this Elizabeth Warren. I call her Goofy. She is, no, Goofy. She gets less done than anybody in the United States Senate. She gets nothing done, nothing passed. She's got a big mouth, and that's about it.
Well, Donald Trump firing back at Senator Elizabeth Warren for claiming he profited from the housing crisis. The war of words all began when Warren said this.
Donald Trump was drooling over the idea of a housing meltdown because it meant he could buy up more property on the cheap. What kind of a man does that? A man who will never be president of the United States.
But wait a second. Warren's hometown paper, the Boston Herald, reported that she profited big from flipping houses many times. So, is this liberal hypocrisy through the roof? Hi, everyone. I'm Eric Bolling. Welcome to Cashin' In. Our Cashin' In crew this week, Juan Williams, Lisa Booth, and Rick Grinnell. Welcome, everybody. Now, Rick, Senator Warren pretending to be holier than thou when it comes to housing, she made money, too, the same way that he did.
Yeah, totally. Look, both Donald Trump and Elizabeth Warren are landlords to people who can't afford housing. And that makes them exactly the same. The difference is that Elizabeth Warren has built a career off manipulating the free market. If she wants to talk about why we've had a housing meltdown, giving people loans, giving people houses, giving people $15 an hour jobs when they're not qualified for that is what's wrong. She has built this whole premise, this liberal premise around manipulating the free market in order to give stuff away to people for free, and that creates the middle class having to pay a lot more money. So if she wants to talk about these issues, she's going down a rabbit hole.
Let me go to Juan. Juan, so Elizabeth Warren, apparently she and her husband flipped many houses, and now she takes shots at Donald Trump for basically wanting to do the same thing, only on a bigger scale, a bigger real estate buy than a house.
This is so ridiculous to me. We are talking about Donald Trump taking advantage on a large scale of a tragedy, an economic tragedy in our nation.
And so she only took advantage on a
Let me
small
finish,
scale?
Eric.
Wait, she did the same thing, though.
No, I want
to finish.
Scale. I insist on finishing.
Okay.
She was doing something for her family members back in the 1990s, early 1990s, 93. Members of her family, she had some money, and she was helping them to get their houses in order. But somehow Trump now wants to equate that with his intervention in markets, huge economic housing markets. He said he wanted to see them go bust so that he, as a businessman, could buy low and sell high.
But that's what you do as a businessman, Juan. You try and buy low and sell high. You want real estate prices. If you're a real estate developer, you want real estate prices to go.
In America, Eric.
You want real estate prices to go down so you can buy it cheap, develop, and make a profit. Profit's not a dirty word.
You don't want
apparently,
profit
hold on,
Juan, apparently people being pushed out of their houses.
Apparently, profit's not a dirty word to Senator Elizabeth Warren and her family. Take a look at these houses. Here's the first one. Check this one out. She made 383% profit, Juan. Profit. That's fantastic. And how about this one? She made 56% profit, Juan. She made a profit. If she's taking shots at Donald Trump for making a profit, yet she did the same thing.
Look at the date on the screen. 1993.
Who cares when it was? It doesn't matter.
Not 2008, 2009.
It doesn't matter when it happened. They did the same thing. Trump was trying to do it on a bigger scale than Elizabeth Warren.
It matters to me and to you if you owned a house and you saw the housing market implode and suddenly your value went out the door.
It was the same thing. It was a real estate market that was weakening. They're both looking to buy cheap and sell
high. In the 1990s, the real estate market was fine.
I have to get Senator Warren's. We asked her for a statement, and they issued us this statement. Quote, Senator Warren and her husband Bruce are fortunate to be in a position where they've been able to help relatives buy their homes and in some cases make a living by fixing up houses and managing rental properties. Now, Lisa, that is a small scale of what Donald Trump is trying to do. On a larger scale, buy real estate, develop it, and sell it.
Right, and it looks like Juan is taking part in the same liberal hypocrisy that we're seeing from Elizabeth Warren and also Hillary Clinton here. Look, both Donald Trump and Elizabeth Warren saw an opportunity in the market and took advantage of it. That's smart business practices and good for Elizabeth Warren, but shame on her for trying to take those opportunities away from everyday Americans by pushing socialist policies here. But she's not just a hypocrite, she's also a liar. This is the same woman that lied about her heritage to 3 different employers to get the job. And Hillary Clinton's also a hypocrite here because Bill Clinton was the one that rewrote the rules to the Community Reinvestment Act, which is largely attributed to being part of the housing crisis.
Great point. I'm going to get to Juan in 1 second, but Rick, Lisa points out the Community Reinvestment Act was reformed under President Clinton, and I remember this distinctly. They said they wanted to get everyone with a home. They wanted people who maybe could afford a home to get homes, and that is why the real estate bubble inflated and burst, and Elizabeth Warren made money on it, Donald Trump made money on it.
Look, the people that Elizabeth Warren, that live in Elizabeth Warren's homes, that she is the landlord of, those people cannot afford homes because the market has been manipulated by Elizabeth Warren's policies. Let me give you one example. They rush to push local governments into demanding that developers build below-market homes. And what that means is that in exchange for a permit, a developer has to add a whole bunch of money to the home price for the middle class simply because there is a politician like Elizabeth Warren saying in order to get that permit, you must give people below-market homes they cannot afford to be in. That is a manipulation of the market. And giving people free stuff is a true problem of the market.
The greatest manipulation of the market, Juan, was in 1993, 94, 95 when President Clinton reformed the Community Reinvestment Act and got people with no loans. No job, no documents, you got your loan anyway, you got your house. And that's what caused the bubble.
You forget that this extends from Democrats to Republican administrations. Everybody wants our American people to believe in the American dream and to get a house. People you know what? It's good for Americans to have investment in their communities, to own property. What's going on with Elizabeth Warren helping out her relatives and friends in the early 90s is wholly different than what's going on in the early 2000s, 2007, and 8 and 9 when we have a recession and people like Trump are profiting on the backs of people who are trying to buy a house.
There are liberals that profited on that as well. She's pointing a finger at Donald Trump, but some of the biggest liberal supporters made a ton of money on that housing collapse. That was perpetrated under Democrats. It was started, inflated, and it burst in 07 under Republicans.
I'll give you that. Okay, if you're saying the Community Investment Act, which I think is a good thing, was started under President Clinton, you are right, Eric. But it's also continued under President Bush. And the idea was not to give money in the pockets of people like Donald Trump. It was to try to help the little guy.
But it failed. But it failed, Juan. Go ahead, Lisa.
Well, there's a big difference here, though, because Donald Trump is being unapologetic about seeing an opportunity in the marketplace and taking advantage of it. That's what a smart business person does. But the irony
Lisa,
here,
you gotta have a heart.
Give me
Lisa,
a second,
have a heart.
Give me
you can't exploit the little guy.
Juan, stop. Oh, please. You're talking about, look, there's plenty of culpability to go around to both Democrats and Republicans. But the problem here, Juan, is that Elizabeth Warren is trying to be a hypocrite. Hillary Clinton is being a hypocrite as well because they're trying to criticize Donald Trump when both Bill Clinton had a handprint in this.
I'm going to give Juan last word. But Juan, when you said you have to have a heart and you're all for the Community Reinvestment Act, you know what the problem with that theory is? Yeah, that would be great in liberal la-la land. The problem is when the bubble burst and the housing market collapsed, guess who picked up the tab? Not the little guy. The American taxpayer picked up the tab to the tune of $1 trillion, Juan, and that's the problem with the whole system.
And guess who profited, Eric? It was the Donald Trumps of the world who said, I don't care about devastating your community.
Please.
I don't care about
Grandma
losing her house.
I'll bet you Clinton profited on it, too, somehow. I'll figure it out next week.
But I know that Donald Trump profited.
All right, we're going to leave it right there.
Elizabeth Warren did, too.
We got to leave right there. Coming up.